Hello, hello, and welcome to another episode of Black Girl Ambition with me, Niya Baxter. This is your go-to space for community, empowerment, and practical tips to help you level up in your career and in all aspects of your life. Here we have real conversations about navigating corporate careers, entrepreneurship, wellness, and Black womanhood. Think executive level coffee chat meets sister circle meets motivational masterclass. You can find Black Girl Ambition on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, YouTube, or your favorite streaming platform. Please be sure to rate, review, and subscribe, and share it with a friend or a coworker if you have not already. So, ambitious Black girls, today we are speaking with Esther Paul. I am always excited to speak with women who are pursuing very different, unconventional career paths. Esther is a visionary strategist. She is a human rights advocate, and she is also the founder and CEO of AfroTunes Animation Studio, which is an emerging powerhouse with a bold mission of becoming the African Disney. Boom. Esther was born and raised in Ghana in a multiracial family, and she spent her career at the intersection of global impact and technology and storytelling. She began her career working in international education reform across sub-Saharan Africa, later pivoting into tech, where she led civic integrity and human rights programs at Facebook, which is now Meta, and Twitter, which is now X. At both platforms, her mission was to make social media safer for global users, particularly underrepresented groups and political dissidents in high-risk election regions. Her animation studio is born from her deep passion to create culturally rich animated stories for African youth that reflect the continent. Esther, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me, Naya.
Esther, you were born and raised in Ghana in a multiracial family. I would like for you to talk to me about how your upbringing, how your specific experiences and upbringing influenced your career choices.
Yeah, so I was born in Accra. I lived there for 18 years. Growing up, my biological father is Lebanese. My stepfather, who raised me, is American, specifically from Texas. So we lived in Ghana, and growing up, my parents wanted us to be bilingual for some reason. They put us in French school. Ghana is an English-speaking country. So I was going to a French school, learning French every day, and then coming home speaking English, and nobody around me spoke French. So it was very strange to be in an environment where you're learning a language that you can't actually practice at home. But at the same time, you're going to school with people from around the world. That really opened up my worldview. I saw things in a different light, and I knew that I wanted to have a career that involved like working with different nations. I knew that I wanted to make a global impact. And I just felt like, in my school, learning about different cultures also made me very interested about different cultures, right? So when I came to America, this was my first time in a purely American setting. And it was interesting for me because although I am Ghanaian and I grew up in Ghana, I started to notice more things coming in America that I didn't necessarily pick up on in Ghana. So I would say that like it was interesting. My upbringing in Ghana and being in a diverse setting pushed me to want to learn more about the world. Yes. And that is how I got into international development, because I wanted to make an impact on a global scale.
And your desire to create that social impact is very clear in the work that you do. I mean, moving from education to tech to the animation studio that you founded, that seems to be a recurring thread for sure. So what exactly then influenced your desire to create an animation studio? Because you went from education to technology and then animation studio. Help me understand what influenced your desire to do that.
Yeah, that's a very good question. And I reflect on this a lot, actually. So when I was in the education space, I was working for this organization that took me to different countries in sub-Saharan Africa, and I was visiting schools. And one of the things that I realized when I was in these schools was the type of books that the children were reading. They were all Western influenced books. And so I started reflecting on my time growing up in Ghana, and I asked myself, what did I read and what did I watch? And it was all Western influence content. So I kind of had like an aha moment of like, this is actually really bad. We probably should be learning more about our culture. So for fun, I started writing children's picture books based on my experience growing up in Ghana and based on my travels across Africa. I didn't really have a plan for those books. I was doing it because it felt like a good thing to do. And I was like, maybe one day my children will read these books. So fast forward a few years later, I met my now co-founders and I shared my picture books projects with them. And they were like, oh, this is really cool. I wonder if we can do something more with this. Would you be open to brainstorming with us how we could impact the continent? And so I was like, yeah, sure. Why not? At that time I was in my early 20s. It just sounded exciting. So every Sunday for like 6 months, we would meet up for an hour and we would just brainstorm different ideas. And we came up with AfroTunes. We all liked animation. We all wanted to tell African stories. And we were like, this is a great way to do it through animation. Back then, I knew nothing about animation. I'll be very honest with you. I just thought I could write a great story, we'll animate it, and then maybe Cartoon Network will pick it up. It would be that simple. No, it was very hard. It's still very hard. I had to learn a lot about the animation process, and I also had to find people that knew more than I did. One thing that really helped me set up AfroTunes was the fact that I worked in management consulting and in tech. And when you're in management consulting, a lot of times you're thrown into projects working with clients that you don't know very little about that area, but you have to, ramp up quickly so you can add value to the client. So I kind of treated the animation space as something very similar. So I learned a lot. I partnered with people who knew more than me, and I was not afraid to just go for it. And in tech, a lot of times you're in spaces where you're asked to make an impact, you're asked to solve a problem, but nothing is defined. There's no processes, there's no blueprint or playbook of how something has been done. You just have to figure it out. And so being in those environments that forced me to be comfortable in ambiguous settings and be comfortable like paving a way where there's no way is what gave me the audacity to think that I could create an animation company. I'm really grateful for those experiences, and I see the value in my background and how that influenced my journey.
I love that answer so much because it also is in deep appreciation for what you've already done, the career that you have built, the skills that you have amassed in management consulting, and being able to really create something out of nothing and deal with ambiguity in a way that you're able to still make progress. Something else when you were talking is you talked about your co-founders, and it seems like there is a recognition from you that you don't have to know and do everything. I think that for people entering entrepreneurship, right, you're doing both entrepreneur and corporate Betty. But for people who are entering entrepreneurship, they go it alone. There are a lot of, especially Black women, who are solopreneurs in particular. And you said, I know what I bring, my skills and my awesomeness here in terms of this management consulting skill set, but I'm not an IT lead or an operations lead or an animator. And so then surrounding yourself with people who it sounds like complemented the skills that you brought. Is that right?
Oh, yeah. No, definitely. I could not do this alone.
Yeah.
We have a small team, but it's a mighty team. Everybody brings unique skills, and I really appreciate that. And we really lean on each other. Where I have gaps, I know I can lean on someone else and vice versa. And I think it's important to surround yourself with people who can complement your skills, but also importantly, people who are passionate about what you're trying to do. That's very key for us. If you're not passionate about this work, it's not going to work.
There is something else that you mentioned when you were talking about your background and what inspired AfroTunes, and that was the gap that you saw in the animation space. And I know we had talked about this when we were doing our prep session before this, but I was actually surprised to hear you say that children who are in Ghana, for example, are watching Western cartoons to the extent that they are, reading Western children's books to the extent that they are. So there is still a gap in opportunity to create imagery, create shows that are then going to show African children a reflection of themselves in the cartoons that they watch.
Yeah, the gap is huge, and it's funny because like I didn't even realize it until I was out of that environment. It was so normal to watch Cartoon Network every day and like read Babysitter Club and all the books that I read, Harry Potter. And just thinking about it now as an adult, I'm like, wow, maybe if I had learned more about my culture, I wouldn't have struggled with all the things that I struggled with growing up. There is a huge opportunity in the animation space to tell African stories that will really resonate with not only just Africans, but the rest of the world. And the fact that the gap is still there blows my mind.
It blows my mind too. The fact that the gap is still there. You grew up in Ghana. I grew up here in America. And there was definitely Western influences, dominant influences, not just influences in my education. But then to hear you say, growing up on the continent, obviously there are the continued impacts of colonialism. But I would think that there would be more of a focus on educating Black children around their history.
The Western influence is a very strong one back home on the continent. I think, there's more work being done, but there's still a lot of work to be done to really figure out how to integrate our culture in everything that we do, even just beyond like education. I think that it's going to take a generation of Africans to really step out boldly to fix this. And I know it's being done, it's starting, but the journey is very, very long, and I hope we can get there. I remember when I came to the US for college, I was asked questions like, oh, do you have a pet elephant at home? Or, oh, you speak English so well. Why is that? And I was like, how did I even get to the school? I mean, it's all because of what's consumed in the media, right? There's this perception that Africa is, a jungle and people are not civilized. Until today, there's still a lot of people who believe that. And it's unfortunate.
Definitely. So I want to shift a bit to creative storytelling and cultural nuance and talk about your first AfroTunes project, which is Solase's Adventures.
Yes.
Talk to me about what that story is about and what inspired that character of Selase in particular.
Yeah, so we have a lot of stories at AfroTunes that we're working on, but we decided to lead on this one. And for many reasons. One, we just wanted to see a story out there with an everyday Ghanaian family just having fun adventures across the continent, learning about different countries and their cultures in Africa. And to us, that, I know it sounds very simple, but that is actually a very huge thing because you don't see that a lot. That's one. Two, the idea of traveling within Africa is still something that, as Africans, it's hard to do. There's a lot of challenges with traveling within Africa. It's expensive. A lot of the times you need a visa. And so as Africans, and I'm guilty of this myself, you decide, oh, let me go to Europe. Let me go to America. I'm not going to go to fly from Accra to Dakar if it costs me $500-$600 and I can do the same thing and go to London. It's the same amounts, right? So there's this perception that we're trying to change that, why not travel within Africa? There's so much to see, so much to discover. And I know it's not that straightforward, but we're hoping to also start a dialogue around it and to change some policies and to get people thinking about how we can improve traveling within the continent. So that's kind of the reason behind it. And we also wanted to make sure that the main character is a bold, strong Ghanaian character because we are a female-led organization.
Love it.
That is important to us as well. The boys are important too. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to make sure that
y'all are important too.
Yes. But the girls, we need to empower them still.
What elements of modern African life does Solase's Adventures reflect? Because you had talked about you wanted to create a story about an energetic, bold, confident girl and her Ghanaian family. So what type of adventures are they getting into? What type of modern life does it depict?
Yeah, so she travels to different African countries. Growing up in Ghana, I would go to the markets, for example. A lot of things happen at the market. You go, you have to bargain with people, it's crowded, you have to find your way around. You may lose something, or all of those things are fun adventures. Why not make it in a positive way as opposed to, oh, the African market, it's hot. Oh, you don't want to go. So it's just like everyday experiences as a Ghanaian child or an African child that you would have. Like, why not turn it into an adventure, a fun adventure? Yeah.
That's so fun. I remember when I was in Accra going to a Ghanaian market and the bargaining that takes place. I have to prepare myself because that's such a different concept when you are in America. The price is advertised as the price and then you pay the price, but it's definitely different culturally. So there are two elements that I know differentiate Solase's adventures in particular. And you had talked about one of them, which is that intra-African travel, but the other is that it is depicted, the backdrop is Africa as it is today. Not futuristic, it's not dystopian. Why did you decide to do that?
We decided to do that because we wanted to highlight Africa for all its beauty and its nuances. I have nothing against futuristic African stories. They're awesome. We're actually working on some ourselves. But I think a lot of the times when people are writing about Africa, they tend to want to reimagine it. And there's nothing wrong with it, but why not just hone in on what we currently have and bring that out as well? There's something powerful in doing that. I want someone to watch Selase's adventures and be like, that's my streets in Kenya, a neighborhood in Accra, And like, there's something exciting about being able to recognize your neighborhood or a specific location. It makes it more real and you can connect with it on a deeper level.
I really do like that. And I also like that through the messaging of the show, you're promoting intra-African travel. And that's something that doesn't happen, but that's how narratives begin and that's how things take root. So I hope that it does contribute towards more intra-African travel in the future.
Same.
What's some of the feedback that you've gotten so far on your animation studio from children who have watched the trailer for Selase's Adventures or from other executives that you are partnering with? What is some of the feedback that you've gotten so far?
Yeah, I'll start at a higher level. And I think when we started AfroTunes, we had all these stories we wanted to tell. We had a whole of stories. And the feedback that we got was, why don't you just pick one story? And start small and build out from there. And that was a very, very powerful advice because it allowed us to just like hone in on something. Also, we are a small team, so there's only so much you can do all at once. So how do we just focus on one story and just get good at telling that story and then scale and then tell other stories? So I think that was one good piece of feedback we received. Another feedback we received from children, they liked the song a lot, which was really nice because we actually wrote the lyrics for that song. There's still a lot of music we want to incorporate in the series as it evolves. So that's something that we're thinking about. In general, the feedback has been, this is exciting. This is needed. We're glad you're doing it.
It's interesting, the feedback that you received at the beginning around focusing on one story. That can be difficult. We have such big imaginations, we have large ambition, and we want to do it all, but not boiling the ocean, being very intentional about focusing on one thing and making progress on that.
Yeah, definitely. It's difficult for me too, because I'm a multitasker. I like doing multiple things at once. So just focusing on one thing is like, oh, can I do other things?
Right. So, Esther, what are some of the biggest lessons learned that you've had so far in building AfroTunes?
First, I think it takes a very special person to be an entrepreneur.
Mm.
And I am really glad I did not know all the things I know now about entrepreneurship. Because if I knew all the hurdles, the challenges, I don't think I would have done this. I have a lot of respect for people who build things from scratch and who are successful at it. It is a lot of work. It takes a lot of grit. It takes believing in yourself, and it takes being able to pick yourself back up when you have a bad day or a bad week and things are not going well. You got to keep moving, or you got to learn how to pivot. So I would say the biggest one that's one lesson. Like, entrepreneurship is hard. The second lesson is who you have on your team and around you is so important. as we launched the trailer for Selase's Adventures, it's been incredible to see all the people who have supported myself and my team. And sometimes the support comes from people that you don't even expect, like the people who you don't really talk to that much, but like they come through for you in a way that you're like, wow, okay.
Surprised, right?
Surprise. Yeah. I can keep going just because of all of this. So I think so we've built a community of, advocates, and surrounding yourself with that community is so, so important. And I think the last lesson is just keep going, keep going. We have made a lot of progress this past year. If you had asked me last year around this time if I would be here talking to you, I would probably be like, probably not. But it's like every day, just those simple actions of, building every little day, that helps so much. And I can look back these past 4 years and I can see the growth of the team, of myself as a leader, and the work that we're doing. And that's motivating to me.
So you say entrepreneurship is hard. It takes grit. It takes belief in yourself. It takes resilience so that you can recover when you have a setback. Keep going and surround yourself with good people. What does the vision for AfroTunes look like in full bloom for you?
Well, the vision is, one, we want to be able to produce more content. We want to be able to, there's so many stories we want to tell. How do we do that? And making sure that it's not just African children watching this, but children around the world. I want your daughter, Niya, to be able to watch this and enjoy this content and learn from it and, resonate with it as well, right? So one is just like scaling up our content. But two, there's also an aspect of like giving back to the continent. I want to be able to employ a lot of African creatives and help to develop the economy back home in Ghana, right? Right now, we're a virtual team, but at one point, there needs to be, an AfroTunes huge headquarters somewhere in Accra with hundreds of people being employed, and even, headquarters in different parts of Africa. I want to be able to employ more creatives, train them, empower them, and give back in any way that we can. So that's the long-term goal. I'm excited for the future. I think that all the feedback that we've gotten so far is really good. But now we just need to figure out how do we scale this work and really make the impact that we want to make back home. To me, scale and success looks like our content is being viewed around the world by all types of people. And we are coming up with so many interesting ideas from different parts of the continent all the time.
I really appreciate your time today. I appreciate this conversation on the AfroTunes animation studio and all that you are building and your very impressive background. Please share with the Black Girl Ambition community how they can support AfroTunes now. What can they contribute or give in terms of partnerships or support?
So I think the first thing you can do is follow us on social media. Two, if you just want to learn more about AfroTunes and have a deeper conversation, I'm always happy to talk with people. I feel like I've had a lot of great conversations with random people who've just hit me up.
Awesome. My last question of you, which I ask all of my guests, is Esther, what is your greatest ambition in life?
My greatest ambition in life? That's a very good question. Well, I think it is being able to build something from the ground up that is actually successful and actually making people's lives better.
When I ask that question to women, the answer that they give is very often rooted in ambition for the sake of building a foundation that has the impact to make the world better.
Yeah.
I don't often hear my goal is to get rich for the sake of just getting rich and sitting on a beach, which is, I love beaches. But the fact of the matter is a lot of the women that I've spoken to talk about ambition for the sake of freedom, for the sake of liberation, for the sake of building foundations that make the world better. Yeah. So yours is very much in line with that. Well, thank you so much for being here today, Esther. It was great talking to you.
Thank you so much for having me. I enjoyed the conversation.
That's it for this episode of Black Girl Ambition, where we dream big, move boldly, and build legacy on our own terms. If today's conversation spoke to you, please share it with a friend, leave me a quick review, and don't forget to subscribe. Until next time, ambitious Black girls. Stay tuned for a short clip of Solase's adventures from AfroTunes Animation.
say you're